to be here today and to represent equestrians. First of all, I'll tell you a little bit about me so you kind of know what my background is, and then we'll get right into the trails. So I grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, went to school at the University of Oregon, and then moved to Albuquerque and Boulder and then Boise, and all those places have amazing outdoor activities and trail systems, and that's what attracted me to those areas. And then I'm also I've been a music teacher for over 20 years, a band director, but now I'm a CEO of our 1,200 acre development in Bismarck, North Dakota called Silver Ranch. It's a 30-year project. This just gives you an idea that I am used to working with cities and parks and developing trails, and that our mission as a family is to create a family-oriented and healthy environment. Local boards that I have served on include Ridge to Rivers 10-year master plan as an equestrian representative, the Ada County Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Yes, I can talk trash. It's all right. Ada County Open Space and Trails Board, the FACTS, which is Foundation Ada Canyon Trail System Board, and I'm the equestrian director on that board, and the Eagle Island Forest Council Equestrian Liaison. So a little bit about what kind of riding I do. This is me and my daughter and some friends. I coach them in mounted archery, and we have a demonstration at the expo. So I like to learn new things in other places and bring them back here. And I'm mentioning that because throughout the evening I'll be bringing ideas from different places that have been successful on the trail system. So I do like to travel. So equestrians, like many activities, it's a family-oriented activity. So this is my daughter, and we ride bareback and bridleless, and jump, and then carry sponsored flags for the Stampede Rodeo. This is me just a few weeks ago on my horse flying into a pond, having a really great time. And that's one reason we love horses, is just to unite that power and spirit. It's just, I'm very passionate for the equestrians. So we travel a lot. This is at Washington Long Beach, just racing on the beach. Bogus Basin, and again on the beach. And now I want to turn to local equestrians that represent Idaho nationwide and throughout the world. So this is the Snake River Stampeders, and they actually performed at the National Finals Rodeo almost every other year. COVID kind of put a crunch on that, but moving on. And then the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. So they represent Idaho. And this is me on the right. I did get to ride with them, and it was a great experience. So the Bronco girl, Kathy Joliot, she's from this area, does a fantastic job. I saw her on your telephone book a year ago or so. Sarah Mitleiter is on the United States Olympic selection team, and she is from this area. So here she is riding, just to give you an idea of the athletic ability to be able to do this. It is quite an honor. Here she is jumping. And then Rachel Long is the United States junior jumping team. Bob Long won the Mongolian Derby Championship in 2019. He is the oldest person to have ever won this race. 620-mile orienteering race, riding feral horses. It's 5 horses each day, roughly 25 miles each day, people from all over the world. He was 71 years old. So now I'm going to bring you to, so from this area, there are representatives throughout the world and nationwide. So now I want to bring you to different activities. There's drill teams, mounted orienteering, endurance riding, jumping, mounted archery, cowboy races, trail competitions, equine therapy, barrel racing, gymkhana games, exploring just backcountry trails, raining rodeos, ranch riding, equine trail sports, which has become very popular. And all these horses that do these activities benefit from a safe and accessible trail system. So these are just pictures of that, and often it's a family-oriented activity because it takes a lot of dedication to, you can't just put them in your garage and pick them up 2 weeks later. They take constant care and love. So now I'm gonna get now into the equestrian trail criteria, and we're gonna start with the designated equestrian parking. If there is not parking, we simply cannot access the trails. So it's really important. So we're gonna take a look at some good examples of that. Right here locally, we have the Eagle Island Park, and it is an excellent example. So here it is, an aerial view of the park. So it's organized. I hope you can see that. So parking in a rig, pickup and a trailer, different things come into play, right? You need more space. The turning radius is different than it is in my Prius. Pull-through parking and no parallel parking. Okay, so this has 22 parking spaces, and you can drive through and turn around and come back out the way you come. You drive in from the left side there, and it's all pull-through parking. It's an excellent example. So here it is. I'm going to see if I can mute the speakers here. Oops. So here it is, Eagle Island Park, 22 trailers completely full and more on their way. So this would be a really excellent design to use for your parking space. This is an example of what happens if you've been to North Eagle, on North Eagle Road, where it turns into Willow Creek. You may see some equestrian parking vehicles there on the east side. They do have burn piles there, so this is another thing, is just being able to control it and watch for it, because there's constantly, this is like literally the 15th magnet run through of nails that we picked up because people burn pallets. So just monitoring that is an important part of maintaining the parking spots. Trailer width is a consideration. I hope you can see that. So you need a place to tie up your horses. So it gives you the dimensions there. And I did just ask my consultant in Oregon at the Milo McIver Park, he said that their designated equestrian area, that they can fit 60 horse trailers. Now if you take a good look at that, all those red boxes are pre-thought out areas where they are to tie their horses. And it's staggered every third, the pattern repeats every third line. If they don't plan it that way and organize it, they cannot fit that many vehicles in there. So we need designated, organized parking spaces. This parking sign is in the ACHD easement on Cartwright Road, and ACHD made very specific signs saying parking, vehicles with horse trailers only. So that, we appreciated that. So the next thing after designated equestrian parking is safe, accessible trails. So an essential component to sharing the trails is seeing each other. That makes sense, right? And I'm gonna hop down to the chart on the bottom. This is from the Portland Design Guidelines for Portland's park system. The sight lines for the equestrians is 50 to 100 feet is what their requirement is. So it's important to plan that and think about, one thing is when you're thinking about planning trails is consider a mother riding with her 12-year-old daughter, or consider a variety of ages for the stages of horse training. I have 2 very experienced horses, but I'll be taking out my 3-year-old horse on the trails soon. I've done everything I can on the ground and riding him, but it's going to be interesting those first few rides. Then with horses, as you might know, what the horse sees could be, it's going to see a predator. So they're a prey animal, so if something comes up quickly on them, they might, see a hiker as a bear or a biker as a cougar. So it's really important that we can see them and that we can acknowledge each other. I just wanted to share a story with you, the perspective. When I graduated from high school, went to college, I traded in my horse for a bike. And I rode bikes exclusively for 6 years in Eugene and in Boulder for my degrees. And then when I moved here, I still didn't have a horse and didn't go back to riding horses until my daughter really wanted to get back into that, and then we jumped into it. But this is a trail that I rode many, many, many times as a biker and never thought about the blind corners. And then I get a horse and I'm riding the same trail, and it's a completely different perspective that even me with my experience as an equestrian did not seriously take into consideration until I was on the back of that horse. So it's a unique perspective. So you can see on the left picture, the sight line there is about 12 feet between the horse and the bike. This is a blind corner. And then you can see that, they're coming towards you on a single track trail, and that they're banking and they're coming fairly quickly. And then you can see on the right hand picture that there's no plan B. It's almost straight up and straight down. So it's a very dangerous place to be. So then you take on that I'm a mother and my daughter wants to ride on this trail and I'm having a heart attack, right? So safety is really important. Sightlines. So problem is blind corners, or when there's blind areas where elevation changes, that the solution is to create separate trails, even just for that short period. And here's a good example. You see the biker on your right, and this is off of Peggy's Trail, north of Boise. And you can see that he's gonna be going down. If you look in the distance by the green tree, he goes down and then back up. And to avoid that, the equestrian on the left just took this other trail. Doesn't have to be a big deal. We can meet up later if we have to, but these separate trails where there's blind corners really make a difference in the connectivity of the equestrians feeling safe and being safe. So sometimes there's separated trails, and I'm an advocate for that, for safety. So here at Eagle Island, they had hikers go to the left and equestrians go to the right. And of course, then the trail etiquette sign that hikers and bikers yield to horses. So this was actually a quote from the Ridge to Rivers 10-year master plan. And it does talk about horse trailer parking, which is an essential part of using the trails, but I want to draw your attention to down below. It says public opinion, and this was from a workshop. Someone wrote this. It says, I don't use the Ridge to Rivers trails, too dangerous for horse riders, and no parking. And those are the two things, if you can walk away with two things from this today, it's parking and safe trails. Recently, KIVI did a report on April 21st, and it's very short, but Steve Dent did a really good job presenting the issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that for you and change gears here.
Seen one in this area, and one of the reasons I'm here at Camel's Back Park at the trail that takes you up to Lower Holes Gulch, and as you can see, horseback riders can use this trail, but I've never seen one in this area, and one of the reasons why is it's such a popular area.
So this is Strider. He's a Tennessee walker.
Eagle Island State Park has become a very popular place to ride horses because of its openness. the separation of users, and the parking.
We're finding it a little more difficult to find a place to be.
Before equestrian riders can access a trail, they need parking, which requires extra space for their trailers and their horses.
If there isn't designated equestrian parking, then it's really tough for us to use it.
On shared trails, blind corners create safety issues for all users. But for horses, sometimes they have a hard time identifying a mountain biker.
Horse is more of a fight or flight. They're going to see a predator. So they basically might think of you as, whipping around the corner as a cougar, for instance, and then they're going to react to that.
That's why trail etiquette requires other users to yield to horseback riders, because scaring a 1,000-pound animal can lead to a dangerous situation.
And something that startles him, his first reaction is fear. And he may lash out with his hooves, he may run like right into you, or something that doesn't make sense to a person. But it's very logical to the horse. I'm getting out of here.
The purpose of this story is not to create conflict, but instead raise awareness so other users don't spook a horse on accident. Equestrian riders ask people to make noise and communicate out on the trails.
We're totally happy sharing these trails along with other users, but if it's not safe and we don't have parking, then we keep retreating to safe places.
And that's one of the reasons you don't see a lot of horses in the foothills, but they do come out, especially here at Peggy's, Polecat, Seaman Gulch, all these areas over here off of Cartwright. Steve Den, Idaho News 6.
Thank you for listening to that. Steve did an amazing job on that. So moving forward, so we have parking and safe trail.
Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm
Oh.
Savannah Sellers. Right
I
now
see.
on Morning News Now,
I see.
deadly airstrikes, dozens.
It is.
That's all right, everybody woke up.
I blame Charlie right now. So accessible entrance. So this is a really nice accessible entrance at the Oregon Trail Reserve on the east side of town at near Micron. So it's wide enough, you don't have to get your stirrups caught up in it, and you don't have to jump over it. Here's one at Squaw Creek entrance, and if you were there with your 12-year-old daughter and she's on her pony, and you have a place to park and you have this gorgeous, beautiful wide trail behind you and it's multi-use, but can you actually access it? Can a pony actually walk over it? Will it jump over it? I mean, that could be a really stressful situation. So that's something to consider is, can you actually access the trails? And I'm gonna move on to the next thing, and that's barbed wire. And if you really are queasy, you might wanna look away, because I do think it's important that people really understand, because where you're going to be putting these trails, there's going to be some barbed wire there, and it does need to be taken care of. When I was growing up, I took care of the cattle and the horses on a ranch, and that was my job, making sure the barbed wire was put away, and I still do that, and it's really important. Oops, so here we go. So safety, barbed wire just can be a death trap for horses, and it can actually be fatal to them. And on the next picture is a little more graphic. So it can actually just skin right off of their bone. So it's extremely dangerous and does need to be addressed. Next, organization. So I'm moving on to organization. So you saw how organization made a huge difference at Eagle Island Park, and now I'm gonna ask you a question. As a teacher, if I said, okay kids, go on the playground, do whatever you want, and let's say the swing set was in the middle of the basketball court, and the basketball court was in the middle of the soccer field, and it's just everyone play together, throw everyone together and see what happens, go play. How do you think that's going to work out? Would you be surprised that there's a conflict? Would education overcome those situations? Would we try to educate them to be better citizens and be more respectful? How about if we put blindfolds on those children and they could not see each other? Would the conflict rate be higher? Would we be surprised when a soccer player ran into a swing set as they were focused on making a goal? So no amount of etiquette education, even with the best intentions, can make up for forethought planning in an organization. It's just an important component to this. So as you see on your right, that's Eagle Hills Elementary School, right? And you can see, of course, you can see they actually have 2 playgrounds. Playground sets. And then they have 3 areas where they can play foursquare and basketball. And then they have their big field. So it looks like they may even divide them by grade level as well. So the point is that the trail system is a huge playground. And with just a little organization, it really can be accessed and enjoyed by all. So this is a Portland Trail Guide, and it just shows that, very nicely what's for equestrians. There's some equestrian-only trails, there's hiking and mountain bike-only trails, there's hiking and equestrian-only trails. So to think about this ahead of time and to plan that out. I do have in front of you, I'll give you this equestrian design guidebook for trails, trailheads, and campgrounds. And this is an excellent resource. It's put out by the United States Department of Agriculture and the US DOT, Federal Highway Administration. This is an excellent resource, and Steve tells me he has it by his nightstand, so if he wakes up in the middle of the night, he can access it. Get smarter, which he doesn't need. So this, I really want you to keep this. The Forest Service has sent me about 50 of these over the last 5 years, and I appreciate that, so they want them to be used. Now we're going to consistent representation and demographics. This is the 4th component. So representation on boards and committees as a policy to withstand political winds. So in Deschutes Trail Coalition in Central Oregon, the equestrian representative is Kim McCarroll, and they consistently have an equestrian on their board. Here, equestrians can come and go on different boards. It's important to have that continuity. Forums, equestrians greatly appreciate a seat at the table along with other trail users. If you don't have a seat at the table, what I've learned is you are on the menu. So representation on public relations materials such as websites, maps, surveys, signs, master plans, etc. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So here's an example from Boulder. As you know, I did live in Boulder, and I rode my bike there exclusively. And as you can see, you see this is a pamphlet, a trifold, and you can see horses already there on the far right page. Trifold is the front, okay? And you see horse at the top and then horse in the picture, right? And everything else on the other 2 sides of the trifold are pretty inclusive for all users. And then the inside is equal representation and pictures. So you look at that and you could run into it. You could enjoy seeing an equestrian or a mountain biker or a hiker on the trail. So they did a really nice job with that, and that's a Boulder Mountain Bike Alliance. So those are the 4 main goals of I think the criteria for safe trails. I just want to bring this up. As I've done my studies, equestrians it's up to 80% women. Mountain biking, I've seen stats up to 80% men. And I'm just throwing this out there. They may negotiate differently. Emphasis on safety might be different. Their leadership styles might be different. Our Idaho Horse Council is run by Bessie Fletcher. Swim was run by, Carlos Matuz. And women might be more often with their children, just something to consider how different that may be. You asked about the economy and how it benefits Ada County. The people who are directly benefit are farmers, trailer, tractor, and ATV dealerships, clothing stores, farriers who trim the horses' hooves. In this pamphlet that I gave you, this is from the University of Idaho Social Science Research, and it's from 2015. On the third side of this pamphlet that's in front of you is the pie chart that I have on here. It's just the exact same pie chart. But you can see, I just broke that down and consolidated, but all together that's $122 million. That was in 2015 of total Idaho equine expenditures. Now I'm gonna go into, if I could dream and had a magic wand, I would love a public horse park. We don't have one around here, a public horse park. And in Utah this is from Revere, Pennsylvania, Buck County Horse Park. There are the Milo McIver Park that I referred to earlier with this parking. They also, as you can see, this is the parking area there, but they have an arena and a round pen, and then trails going off from that area. That would be wonderful. Then there's also at this park, and Milo McIver Park, and at Elijah Bristow Park in near Eugene, Oregon, they have, like, you guys have bike parks to build bike skills. Well, there's skills that we want to improve on as equestrians. So this is a rocking bridge. You can side pass over this, you can walk over it, you can do all kinds of different maneuvers with this simply for logs. This is a balance beam. This is just having them maneuver what you would see in the backcountry anyway, a roof wall, rocks. This is a swinging bridge, which you might see in the backcountry. And then just pedestals on the right, and then exercises of, you would do a 360 with that pole, different kinds of pedestals and bridges. So that's what I would like to do, is actually have a horse park. Now, as far as if I also had intrinsically all users get together and get along, I would like to build relationships. So trail user camaraderie, it would be nice to have a coalition, maybe call it trail mixed, I think that's kind of cute. Representative from each user group, meet regularly to keep a pulse on what is working and what needs a solution. And then a triathlon, which Catherine mentioned, she has actually participated in one that was up at Bogus Basin. There'd be bicyclists, equestrians, and a runner, and then a triathlon would be organized and formatted with the goal of building friendship and goodwill among different user groups. Rather than us staying in our own echo chambers, to get outside of our own groups and get to know each other. So I want to thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. And does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.